Hey y'all, John back from Red Viking Hobbies. Today I am with the Enduro Ecto Trail Truck. Another improper unboxing where I take it out of the box and I run the car, and then after that I tell you all what's great about it. So here's the deal. Basically you get your XP130 controller inside of the box. You get a bag of goodies, really is. And then you get your decal sheet. But most of all, you get this guy. Okay, let me just grab my coffee here. With my new Death Wish coffee mug. Ooh, steamy. Looking good. As is this Ecto. All right, check it out. For 2021, this happens to be one of my favorite releases. I know that that's like a weird thing. There's been a lot of releases in 2021, so why would a simple crawler be one of my favorite releases for the entire year so far? And we're in the middle of October. Well, it's actually because of that reason, because it's like I feel the people over at Associated Electronics took a look at what we were actually doing with our builders kits for SCX10s or our TRX4s, and they listened to us and they were like, hey, let's give these guys a tucked body, right? So we have, you know, a great amount of room where we can see what's going on with our drive lines and everything else like that. We're not rubbing up against stuff. And let's give them some of the properties like, you know, not like a huge bumper that's in the front, a good 5-pole motor, and help out with the Gatekeeper suspension system on there, and give them a truck that they can droop if they want, you know, and they can absolutely go climbing with. Basically, just take this thing and just do a few modifications, and then you're good to go as far as climbing. However, right out of the box, it's phenomenal. It is a great truck. So let's start from the front to back and let's go over what you get in here, okay? So the first thing I mentioned was the bumper, right? So it's so minimalistic. That's terrific. So I gotta slow down here a little bit to explain here so I don't get misquoted. Okay, everyone, I had to interrupt myself there because we're talking about angle of approach. The angle of approach should be easily measured by taking a look at the front of the tire and then just taking a board and bringing it up, just like you were driving, you had your 4x4 outside, and bringing it up to the point where it would reach its first obstacle, which would be this right here. So that angle from the front of the tire, and of course I'm trying to get as close as I can with the bottom of this here, would be measured. This angle here, the angle from here to here, is what your approach angle is, okay? Then you have ramp angles, and you have breakover angles, and you have departure angles. Except in RC crawling, it's also important to take a look at what your axle clearance is, because that's another situation you can get in trouble with if you have steering linkage that actually gets in the way. So when it comes down to it, although they give us what their approach angles are, when you do something like this with the reduction of a bumper and you make the bumper so small, you make it very easy when you run into an obstacle, okay, instead of having this situation happen. To avoid that situation, now let's imagine for a second that there is a bumper and it goes all the way and it comes across the top of the tire. Since that isn't the case here, it is very easy for us to avoid those obstacles and to use our tires and drive the lines that we want, because we have such a small bull bar that's on the front instead of a bumper. Let's take a look at the honcho and give you an example there. And it's not a comparison video. I just wanted to grab one, you know, to show you. When they give you something large like this, okay, then you're unable to not only see obstacles, but you're more likely to bang into stuff. And so if you take a look at the guys who are doing the serious climbing, this is the kind of thing that they want. As a matter of fact, they even want less. They don't even want this on there, because what they want is their tires to be more forward. But on the Ecto, it is really easy to be able to take those tires and go and make a turn and be able to avoid hitting anything with your bumper because it's so small. However, they do give you a spot for a winch, so you can totally scale it out if you chose to do so. So that's the first thing is that I really like about the truck is the tucked body. That's the big thing, and that is that's not the big thing. The big thing is the Gatekeeper suspension system that we're going to get into. Okay, except this is basically your HD Enduro truck. Okay, except with a Gatekeeper suspension system. So you get the StealthX transmission in it and everything else like that. So let's talk about what these goodies are, okay? So I've talked about the body. I've talked about how tucked this body is. And if you don't like the yellow, which is, you know, totally cool, it comes in clear as well. So you could do that. In the box, I was mentioning about the bag, right? I had actually said, and the bag, you know, which actually has some goodies in it, and it does, because it has body posts, so you could swap out a different body if you decided you wanted to run it, but it also has something really important right in here, so we can get to it. If we can't, it's gonna be okay, but I got my fingers on it right here. It's this little gear right here, this little gear, because in an Ecto, okay, and in the Enduro, however, I don't believe it's in the Tioga, the front of the car is overdriven at the center transmission. So your center differential overdrives the front of the truck by 5.7%, which means it's doing more pulling in the front than it is pushing in the rear. And they also give you one that goes to 11.73%. I forgot to mention it does come with a manual that I was probably reading and put somewhere, and I can't remember where it is. In any case, so they give you that gear, and this gear right here, if you were to swap it out, okay, will get you to 11.73% in the front, which is like 12% pulling power on the front tires from the transmission. This StealthX transmission, in addition to having the ability to swap out that gear to run the front differential at a higher percentage, is also very easily turned, so you could reverse the direction. So if you have any issues with torque twist or anything like that, you can swap what side your drive shaft direction is, because everything would flip, right? So if you decide you're going to a way more powerful motor because you want to do something else, or you have a different crawler motor, or you just like the setup done another way, it is extremely simple to do this. I'll be actually removing this cover here and putting just a small plate that I have on here to run it. It comes in at 4.15 pounds, so 4 pounds and 15 ounces with a battery in it. I ran a Huvu 5000 milliamp on here. Got a ton of life out of this thing. I couldn't believe for how small this 2S is, how much life I got. So this is a 7.4 100C 37 watt. You can see there from Huvu. I bought it because it was a cheap pack of 2. It wound up being absolutely terrific. But what else is terrific about this is that your steering, if you don't have a Enduro HD, your steering linkage is located behind the axle. Not just behind the axle, but it's tucked up behind the drive shaft. So what happens is a subconscious thing. You're driving your lines, you're looking at your tires, but you're never worried about getting hangups and things happening when you're hitting the trail because your steering linkage isn't there in the front. So it's a benefit that you enjoy, but you don't really realize it. You also don't realize that because they did it that way, it actually puts less stress on the servo because the steering linkage is shorter. And so to give you an example of that, we'll go back to the Axial SCX10 and show you that steering linkage, which is right in front, okay, of the axle like it is on most cars. However, in an RTR, this guy is plastic. So it's definitely way more likely to get hung up than one, of course, that doesn't have it, or one that it's higher, or one that is made out of aluminum. So this RTR comes in at about $330. A TRX4 Sport comes in at about, and like I said, it's not a comparison video, but I just want to show you why I like this one so much. TRX4 Sport gives you a much higher clearance and the steel rod. This comes in at 370, phenomenal vehicle, except one of the main differences is it has portal axles on it, okay? except you have to consider on the portal axles how these things can actually approach when you are making your climbs and turns and things like that when you're running the car. So that's something that you have to address and you have to think about. In addition, take a look at how wide that body is. So this is why we cut our bodies up. This is not specific to Traxxas. This is not specific to Axial or any other manufacturer. You just literally have to take a look at the body you're running and say to yourself, you know, is that thing going to get in the way? And it's interesting because I'm going to show you something this truck is able to do that neither of those were able to do, and probably not many others that I have in my collection of about 20 crawlers would be able to accomplish. And that's in this shot right here. Take a look at this shot. Okay, so as you can see, I'm sitting like this. The car is virtually up in the air like this, okay? The tires aren't even touching, but somehow I get up and over. Why is that so darn impressive? Well, let's get to the Gatekeeper suspension system. Well, you know what? Before we get to the Gatekeeper suspension system, and you're gonna see, you can see by the offset, the way that these are angled, that there's something different that's going on, okay? But if I show you a little more, you can see we got a roll bar back there and we got something going on. It's a little bit different than what your standard setup is, but let's talk about, I'm all over the place, but let's talk about what you get. So it's a 14-turn, 5-pole motor that comes in here. You get the XPR4 ESC. It already has a Shorty battery box installed right up front. I'm sorry, that was your transmitter receiver. The Reedy is, I think it's an SCX 400. It'd be good to have the manual here, but I believe that's what it is. I'll have to check on that. I'll double check for you guys. Man, I'm rusty. It's been, what happened? What happened? July, I knew it was gonna be a bust. August, all of a sudden, like I get back, I'm like, oh, I'll have a video in. Couldn't get one done. School, kids going back to school, sports things happening, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we'll talk about that because I'm going to start doing some more vlogging. But the point is behind here, bullet connectors, Dean's connector on the car. We talked about the steering. So let's get back to what makes this truck so special to me. And that is this Gatekeeper suspension system. And I'll have pictures up that I'm showing you. So basically, one of the things that you want in a car, but you get people, they use the terminology wrong, is you want the vehicle to be able to flex left and right as you're crawling, okay? That we can all agree upon, okay? But a lot of people use the word twist instead. So let me grab Betty here. This is stage 1 of Betty's build. Got some double barrel shocks on here and it's smaller, so I thought it'd be easier to show you. So basically what they want to see out of their cars is that their cars can do this. But that's not always the appropriate thing for a crawler to do. And the reason for that is pretty simple, actually. When you make an approach on an obstacle, let's say it's a right front tire that's making the approach on the obstacle, okay? When the right front tire goes up, okay, what tends to happen is your left front tire wants to lift as well. So you need something that's going to be able to keep that left tire down. And if it can't be kept down, what happens is the rear tire, I should be doing this on the side that you can see, right? So basically, if this tire starts to go up like this, and the other tire starts to lift, this tire starts to come up off the ground. That is torque twist that happens. And so when you have something like a 33-turn motor, or you have a, I believe this is a, what is this, a 20T reverse rotation? What do they give you in a TRX for? Let's see. Can't remember it off the top of my head. What are you? I want to say it's a 21 or a 20T turn. I can't remember them all in all the vehicles without looking at them ahead of time. I apologize. But what happens is you get that hop in the back that you see. How many times have you been running the vehicle and like you're like hopping, you're like, please make it, right? Well, with the Ecto, what winds up happening is the rear tires stay down. So in that footage that I just showed you, and the very opening scene where you see it come up and it's up off of the tires, and then all of a sudden it comes up and over, the reason it does is because it keeps its tires down in the back, and because the rear of the vehicle, right? Look at the clearance on the rear of the vehicle. Am I saying they could do an incline like this? No, I'm not. But what I am saying is that when you approach an obstacle and all of a sudden your front tires aren't there and you're relying on the rear tires to do the work, they got to be down, right? They got to be touching. That makes sense. Well, yeah, sure. But don't all of our crawlers do that? No, they don't. Hope that thing wasn't blinding everybody the whole time, like with the light bouncing off it and everything else like that. But the answer to the question is no, they don't. So we would have to look at a different car to show you that. I'm not picking on the Rancho because I know the Axial SCX 10.2 is the most upgradable car that's on the market. There's more upgrades for this product, the SCX 10.2, than I think probably any RC car that I can think of off the top of my head. So this is a great truck when it's upgraded. So I grabbed this, like I said, they're going for $300. I grabbed this a little under $300, and that's why I did it. I have a builder's kit, and I have all the parts to do the build out, but I wanted to have an RTR to show you what you get. So when you're shopping, you could say, do I want to go for, an extra $70 to the $399 price point, or, do I want to grab that Trail Honcho? You may be saying, I'm going to do the Trail Honcho and I'm going to do the build out the way that I want it. And that may be fine because you know what you're doing, but there are people that are new to the hobby that don't know and may want a great crawler. And this one is phenomenal out of the box. The RTR is phenomenal out of the box. Now, so here, the same line, all of a sudden, the tailgate is hitting. Now, that wouldn't happen on every body, right? There would be bodies that would be shorter, like the Ecto is, so that when we make that approach, we might have a chance of getting up and over. But because it doesn't have the anti-roll bar in the back like the Ecto does, which I'll talk a little bit more about, what happens is you get the hopping happening from a vehicle like this. If we take a look at a car that's a little bit more scale and can be scaled out a lot more, right? This is around a $379.99, $369.99 price point, okay? It's a heavier truck. This comes in at 4.15 in its weight. My guess, I have the scale right here, I should have weighed before, is that this is a 7-8 pound truck when you're done with it. I'm gonna have to weigh it after, but let's take a look at the same effect that we were talking about when it came to that climb that I showed you. There you go. That's it. I wouldn't be able to go any further with my TRX4 because on the back, you have your bumper here. You're keeping it for scale. If you take it off for climbing, if you were able to see underneath here, okay, the channel comes back so far that you still would hit when it comes to how far those frame rails come back. And so you would not be able to get that same angle of on that climb. And I don't know what to call that because it's not an angle of approach. It's just an effect of having the body being so much tighter to the wheels on the Ecto than it is on a TRX4 Sport, I should say in particular. Of course, we're not talking about the TRX4. However, if you wanted to scale a vehicle out and you wanted to talk about some serious weight and you want to talk about some serious trail running and things like that, this is an excellent vehicle. They're all great in their own right. It just happens to be that the Ecto is the only one out of these three. And when I think about it at that price point, it's the only one that I can actually think about where I've actually seen guys take them up against their competition rigs and have seen it do so well. I mean, you can see in my footage here, basically what happens is I go out and I'm like at my son's soccer game and I need to get this running in this footage in between. his games. So I go over to this construction site, and there's all kinds of like dust and dirt and debris at the construction site and everything else like that. So I don't have any line that I'm particularly driving. I'm just going to go up, try to go up over these rocks and see how it does. Well, the tucked body kept me from scraping the heck out of the body. I mean, it's been run many times since, so that's why it's scraped up. But in addition to, and flipped over and everything else like that, but in addition to it working as hard as it did with the torque and being able to always find some spot to put its tires down, the car always wanted to keep those rear tires flush. Even when it was sitting like on these weird angles, it looked like that tire was trying to find a place to sit down, and that is all due to the Gatekeeper suspension system. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Gatekeeper because I think the Gatekeeper looks like a cheap Capra. I'll just put it that way. And I'd rather have a trail truck that has a body on it. So that's why I like that they included the suspension system here. But what happens is this anti-roll bar, this is the bee's knees right here. This here, it's an anti-roll bar or anti-sway bar. You're going to hear people say roll bar, sway bar. It's really anti. And in both cases, whether it's on a rock racer or a drag car, what you're basically trying to do is keep both tires planted so that when you have torque twist, that tire doesn't lift up. So what happens in this one in particular with this car is that because it has a captured roll bar, the roll bar is not sitting outside like some sway bars do. They sit outside. The pressure on those only comes from the fact that they're attached to a portion of the rear arm that allows the pressure to be put down on the roll bar. So, and then it goes to the other side. When you capture it inside the chassis, like they've done with these two screws here, you take the weight of the entire vehicle and then it will sit on top of that roll bar as the approach happens. You see that transfer of weight right there that happens? So see how that suspension is immediately affected? So it's got aluminum shocks on it that are rebuildable, many different shock points. And of course you can get different shock plates so you can do all the different mountings you would want. So it's a phenomenal car right out of the bat, you know, right out of the box to start crawling with. I mean, I'll tell you, it's a very exciting car for me. I really like it. You get these Beadlock wheels that are on here. It has a set of a grabber. I think these are called the grabber. What are they here? Just make sure I get it right. The X3, yeah, General Grabber X3s. And these are a really good tire for an RTR. You may want to throw a set of high racks on there because you want a little bit more lug on the side, or a set of Predators or something like that. That's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with the high racks. That's why I just grabbed a set of them that I had sitting out there to show you. But they were very capable right out of the box. And I don't usually do this, and I don't see me doing it much in the future, except Joe from ExoCaged gave me permission to include his links in my video. Now, I obviously don't do this for a living. It's my hobby, and so is doing this, and editing for me is like a bear. I don't know how many other YouTube people feel that same way, but I want you to take a look at those two videos. If you get a chance, if you're still interested in the Ecto, take a look at his videos where he takes his car and he puts it right up against his competition Superlight and his SV2, and he runs an out-of-the-box RTR stock car against his competition rigs, and take a look at the way he does it. And the reason why I'm specifically sending you to Joe from ExoCaged is not only because I love watching his programming, and I really like watching Joe, I get a kick out of the guy, but it's because he has something he calls the Exoplex right in his backyard. And I just had a tree die, and I was building my crawling course around the outside of it, so I had to take the tree out and remove all of the stones and everything that I was putting in place that you might have seen in footage in other videos, and there had been more that had accumulated since. But I had to move those so that they could take the tree out. So in essence, I'm moving where I'm building my crawler course, so I don't have it yet to be able to do these crawls right in my backyard and to show you these things. So that little stack that I have, that's just what we got before before we did the Ecto, before I did the footage of the Ecto. But in his backyard, he's got this thing called the Exoplex, and he takes it and he runs the lines as if he's running a competition, and then he'll go and he'll run his designs for his Superlight and for his SV2, which are based on, I'm not sure about the SV2, I'm quite sure, but the Axial SCX 10.3. 2. Joe runs the Superlight is an Axial SCX 10.2 build. I'm like 99% sure. I don't know why I just said 3. I'm holding it 2. We should put it back to give it its proper place, because this is a Hall of Famer right here, right? I mean, no doubt about it. But as far as it comes to my crawlers that I have at home, the ones that are RTRs that I haven't messed with, this one is far and away the best out of the box. And I love it. I will buy another one because I plan on making this into a climbing car when I do that, because it won't be anything close to competition, and I won't be changing out the bodies. I will drop it. I will put a 1080 in it. I will go with a Holmes Hobby motor, one of the upgraded motors on there. This will get cut so it disappears from my angle of approach. So the next time you see it, it'll probably have some Iron Maiden stickers on there, and it'll be dropped, and the thing will be doing more climbing because it's so easy to do with this vehicle. And because I have other crawlers that are more to scale, this doesn't necessarily have to sit in that category whatsoever. And you could see, now look, I didn't even put the mirrors on the side. I mean, you know, people put boards and motorcycles in the back. They put the winch on the front. What I'll do is I'll just go ahead and I'll put a DSM on their recovery system, you know, the elastic recovery system, and that'll be it. Like, she'll be ready to go. I mean, I am thrilled with this product from Enduro. I don't know how long I've been keeping you, but I appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Also, hey, if you're in the scale, and while we're in this $400 price point conversation, and that's why I didn't, by the way, I didn't compare this against anything like a Vanquish when it came to a builder's kit like an SCX10 is available for. And of course, you can get this in a builder's kit as well. As well as the Gatekeeper if you like the look of the buggy style instead. But you want to go scale, and you want to stay in that $400 price point right here behind Mjolnir and behind Betty is the Enduro Night Runner. The Enduro Night Runner, $379.99 with independent front suspension. It's getting its own video. It's the big brother, let's say, to the Trail Runner with the independent front suspension. The amount of stuff you get for $379.99 here is absolutely amazing. It is a beautiful car, beautiful for scale. However, when it comes to just your regular crawling, competition, climbing, things like that, this guy can't be beat. And because of the independent front suspension system on that car, it runs a completely different line and has to be driven differently. And in addition, it would have clearance issues and has weight issues when it comes to making it into a climber. But if you were going to take an SCX10, I'm sorry, if you were going to take an Enduro kit and change it over to an independent front suspension system like this has, you'd be at like a $600 price point after your electronics. So this is a steal when it comes to the price. So we'll talk about that. But for $400, I feel like it's that KISS, keep it simple, stupid thing where they looked at what we wanted as far as crawling goes. And they were like, okay, so we got our scale guys and we got our climbing crawler guys. And they took care of both of us. And I think they did an awesome job. I love the Gatekeeper suspension system. That's my favorite thing about this truck. And I gotta say, I love the fact that it came with a tucked body already. I can't think of another off the top of my head that comes with a body that's tucked like this, as much as this is. And I'm thinking like right now, like across all like different platforms, and I can't think of one. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of the footage. This is John Red Viking Hobbies. Glad to be back and good to be seeing y'all. I hope I see you out there. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to enjoy my cup of coffee. Death Wish pumpkin. So it's kind of cheating. I think they put tea in it, like Earl Grey tea. It's in there. I like Earl Grey tea. I don't know that. Love pumpkin. Love the Halloween flavor. I'm not a huge Halloween guy, but I do decorate a bunch. Maybe I should take a picture of my decorations. Wayne, Texas. It's so bizarre. Outside of Austin. Am I talking over the footage? That's what's going on here? Was there anything I forgot to mention? The creaking of the stool fun, did you guys like that? Hey, my refrigerator isn't beeping. They actually gave me a new fridge. Well, they didn't give it to me. They gave me 70% off a new one, so I ordered up a Gen Air. Excited about that. All right, so you guys have probably seen enough footage and you've heard me talking enough. Hey, we can always talk about how the Wraith is going. Looking good. Getting pretty sexy. Anyway, I hadn't been working on that in a long time, so I decided to pull it out. There's a joke there. All right, everybody. Signing off, John from Viking Hobbies. Y'all take care. Hope to see you out there.